Hello and welcome to the Southeast Iowa Union Newsbreak. I'm your host, Nick Steffens. Top stories: while most topics analyzed by the STB's recently released draft environmental impact statement were classified as minor, temporary, or localized concerns, one issue is likely to be pervasive across the multinational freight route: noise. The Office of Environmental Analysis concluded it would be a big deal. OEA does not expect that the proposed acquisition would cause individual trains on those rails to become substantially louder or to become audible in places where they are not currently. However, the projected increase in rail traffic from the proposed acquisition would make rail-related noise more frequent, which would result in a higher day-night average noise level at many receptors, the report said. As with many issues highlighted by the document, the concern is greatest in southeast Iowa, where companies expect the biggest jump in train traffic as a result of the merger, an average increase of 14.41 trains per day by 2027. The assessment is primarily interested in the impact on noise-sensitive receptors like schools, places of worship, retirement communities, libraries, hospitals, and residences, where ambient background noise is typically and ideally low. Regulators identify an annoyance threshold for noise, defined as the point when a noise level increased by at least 3 decibels from a passing train and brings the daily average loudness levels to at least 65 decibels combined with existing background noise. For reference, that's about as loud as a typical conversation on average throughout the day. Currently, the OEA identifies 373 noise-sensitive receptors at that threshold from Muscatine to Ottumwa. Post-merger, that number would climb to 1,020 as traffic more frequently raises the volume. For every aspect of the environmental report, OEA takes a second consideration in the context of environmental justice, evaluating whether changes will have a disproportionate impact on disadvantaged groups like minority populations, low-income areas, and American Indian tribes. The sole item reviewers considered a potential environmental justice issue was noise. Noise from the projected increased rail traffic would be the only type of impact that could potentially result in high and adverse impacts on EJ populations. Impacts other than noise from increased rail traffic would not be above generally accepted norms and thus do not warrant an evaluation, the document said. In the big picture, transportation officials said the merger would not have major environmental justice impacts. Of 165 census block groups deemed to experience adverse noise impacts, as many as 51 may constitute environmental justice groups, according to the impact assessment. The picture changes, however, at the local scale. For some communities, including Washington, Columbus Junction, and Muscatine, the report said most adversely affected receptors were in fact located in environmental justice block groups. The same is true for around 20% of communities impacted by the merger. For some communities, most of the adversely affected receptors are located within environmental justice block groups. However, for the vast majority of communities, most of the adversely affected receptors are located in non-environmental justice block groups. Based on the other 80% of communities, OEA concluded that environmental justice was not a top concern with the proposed merger. Although the proposed acquisition would affect low-income populations and minority populations, including Native American tribes, impacts on those populations would be similar to or less than the impacts experienced by non-environmental justice populations, the impact statement said. Our very own Kaylin McCain will continue to dive into this report and the local effects of this merger. What I've said today is just the tip of the iceberg. I highly recommend you read the full article in the future articles at the southeastiowaunion.com or by picking up a copy of the Southeast Iowa Union. Now looking down in Mount Pleasant, Monday evening, Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce and community members gathered at the edge of town to celebrate the grand opening of Crescent Motors. There was once a very large empty space, which served as a reminder of the hardships that too often befell businesses in the midst of the pandemic. The McKenzie family is more than happy to fill that space with not only vehicles, but life, jobs, and hope. Sales consultant Darius Smallwood is not new to this location. He worked for 5 years as a car sales consultant for the previous 2 owners of the location. It's great to be back home, he said. In the time the lot sat empty, Smallwood found himself working in a factory, but never realized how much he missed selling cars. This is my atmosphere, he said as he took a look around the showroom full of people. The McKenzie family feel the same. Co-owner of the Mount Pleasant location, Chris McKenzie, puts an emphasis on family, employees, and community. That is what Crescent Motors as a whole company is all about, according to their mission statement, which reads, "We will exceed employee and customer expectations by being the best in every facet of our business through consistent and transparent behaviors. With a strong dedication to the community that supports us, we strive to provide 100% satisfaction for everyone that engages with Crescent Motors in a business or personal setting." Crescent Motors CEO Keith McKenzie told the community as much. "This is the heartbeat of America," he said. "It's not about the big towns, it's about the right towns and the right people, and this is the right town. We are proud to invest in this community," he said. "Currently, we have about 50 employees and are growing. Our customer satisfaction is above average and we're buying homes in this community." Now looking at Fairfield, Solar Power World has recognized Ideal Energy's installation success by ranking it _1 engineering, procurement, and construction EPC solar contractor in Iowa on the 2022 top solar contractors list. Two out-of-state installation subcontractors ranked ahead of Ideal Energy due to the size of their utility installations in Iowa, placing Ideal Energy number 3 in the state overall. In addition, Ideal Energy came in 19th nationwide in the commercial and industrial category. Ideal Energy installed 32,954 kilowatts of solar power in 2021. "We're honored to be recognized for our work by Solar Power World," said Troy Van Beek, Ideal Energy's founder and CEO. "The last couple of years have been very challenging for the solar industry, but our team's determination and skill brought us our biggest year yet in 2021. That was our top stories. It is now time for obituaries. Dennis C. Frazee of Mount Pleasant passed away August 13th at the age of 66. A memorial mass will be held at 10 a.m. Saturday, August 20th at St. Alphonsus Catholic Church. Powell Funeral Home is in charge of the arrangements. Francis Doreen Rector of Mount Pleasant passed away August 13th at the age of 97. Funeral services will be held at 11 a.m. were held at 11 a.m. today at Divine Mercy Parish SS Mary and Patrick Catholic Church in West Burlington. Funeral services are in charge of the arrangements. Patricia and Vincent of Wellman passed away on August 14th at the age of 85. The Vincent family is having a private family celebration of life. Powell Funeral Home in Wellman is in charge of the arrangements. George Raymond Colthurst passed away on August 14th at the age of 93. Services will be held at 1:30 August 19th at Ainsworth Community Church. Jones and Eden Funeral Home in Washington is in charge of the arrangements. We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we will have the weather and sports.
Since 1905, Kelowna Cooperative Technology Company has helped our community stay connected with the latest advancements in clear, dependable telecommunications services. KCTC provides rural Iowans with access to high-speed fiber internet, as well as phone, television, computer repair, and cybersecurity solutions. We're also proud supporters of local organizations and area schools within the community. KCTC, keeping Kelowna connected.
Welcome back to the Southeast Iowa Union Newsbreak. I'm your host, Nick Steffens. We have sports coming up, but before that, we will now have the weather.
The weather is brought to you by Jacqueline Ariola, LLC.
Come visit Jackie in her new location downtown. She is ready to serve Washington and the surrounding community. Today has been mostly sunny with a high of 80, making up for the cloudy day we had yesterday. Overnight temperatures will be dropping down to 57. Tomorrow there will be even more sun and a high of 82. Thursday we will see some of the clouds return in a high of 84. For Friday it appears there is a chance for thunderstorms in the afternoon and a high of 80. The storms will continue into the evening, with only occasional rainfall at night. Saturday will be one of those weird Midwestern days with a mix of clouds and sun, as well as a chance for thunderstorms. In the evening the thunderstorms will continue, but overnight conditions will just be cloudy. That was the weather. It is now time for sports.
Sports, brought to you by Fairway.
For Southeast Iowa, the 2022 baseball season was just about as good as it could get, and the Union area showed they were some of the best players in the state, with a pair making the journey to the state tournament and even bringing home a state championship. New London and Mid Prairie were among the upper echelon in their respective classes, as both made deep runs in the postseason, which included state tournament trips. Mid Prairie fell one game short of the state title game, while New London was crowned state champions. The two are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this year's 2022 All-Union list. New London leads with 5 names on the list. Highland, who also had an outstanding year with 22 wins, followed with 3. Mid Prairie and Cardinal each carded 2. Van Buren County and Keota landed 1 each on the list. The coach of the All-Union list is Brad Helmerson of New London. Everything came to fruition for New London head coach this season. Not only did Helmerson help the Tigers win their first baseball state championship in school history with an 8-7 victory over Remsen St. Mary's, but he did it in his last ride as head coach. After amassing a 31-1 record this past season, a school best, and a 210 and 128 career record, Helmerson's 14-year stint with the Tigers came to an end. He's also named this year's All-Iowa Baseball Coach of the Year by the Des Moines Register. This year's team was propelled by 9 seniors who go out along with their head coach. The captain of this team is Cooper Schulte of New London. Schulte finished the season with an average of .444 in the Southeast Iowa Super Conference South Division. He led both runs and RBIs with 50 and 44 respectively. He also hit 13 doubles. His 6 home runs were second in the league and 6th in Class 1A. From the Hill, Schulte was fantastic as well. He held a 0 ERA until the state championship game and held batters to an average of .067. Schulte closed out the state championship win for the Tigers. Also listed as a pitcher is Derek Santiago of New London. Santiago had one of the best arms in the state from the mound. He led the conference and was 3rd in the state with 10 total wins. His 74 strikeouts were an SEISC South Best. His ERA was 4th best with an average of .86. Opponents struggled greatly against Santiago, swinging with just a 141 average. Also listed as a pitcher is Colton Clarehan of Keota. On the Hill, Clarehan faced 251 batters, allowing 43 runs on just 30 hits, 50 walks, 7 hit by pitches, and 100 strikeouts. The catcher is Tucker Gibber of New London. Behind the plate, Gibber was one of the best, hardly ever letting a ball get by him. He led the SEISC South in throwing out runners with 7. He wasn't too shabby at the plate either. He averaged .420 in the box and was 5th in RBIs with 31. His 34 hits ranked 5th in the conference. He also tied for third with teammates Josh Cottola and Schulte for singles at 24. Gibber also had 2 triples on the season. He was a spark plug for New London and always showed out when they needed a jolt. In the infield, we have Jackson Manning from Van Buren County. Jackson Manning was one of the top players from Van Buren in 2022. He held the Warriors down behind the plate, in the box, and on the mound. His batting average was .411, 7th best in the SEISC South. He also led the Warriors in total runs with 33, which was 4th best in the league, and hits with 39, which was tied for 2nd. His 14 doubles were the most. With 61 total bases, he was 3rd in the conference. Also in the infield is Carson Grout from Mid Prairie. Grout was a big part of the Golden Hawks postseason run this last season. Over the course of the season, he was stellar on both the mound and at the plate. He's also the youngest player on the list, the sole sophomore. His .372 average in the box was 6th best in the River Valley South. He finished 3rd in home runs with 2 and 2nd in total RBIs with 28. His 7 doubles were tied for 2nd most and 2 triples tied for 3rd. He ended tied for 3rd in total bases as well with 46. Kane Brown also is in the infield from Mid Prairie. Brown finished 5th in the RVS in batting average with .382. He was also 1st in both runs, 33, and stolen bases with 20. His 34 hits, 26 singles, and 2 triples were 3rd best in the conference. He tied with Grout in total bases with 46. Carson Kenny from Cardinal fills out the infield. Kenny led Cardinal from the plate with a .383 batting average. He finished with 22 runs, 23 hits, 16 singles, 6 doubles, 1 home run, and 9 RBIs. In the outfield, Joshua Cottola from New London. Cottola finished with an average of .403. His 32 runs were 5th best in the conference. He ended with 31 hits along with 24 singles. He also drew the 3rd most walks with 24. Cottola also ended with 20 RBIs on the season. Also in the outfield is Landon Becker from Cardinal. Becker was an integral piece of a senior-led Comet squad this past season. He not only had a great season in the outfield, but also on the mound. He batted .349 on the season and led Cardinal in runs and hits with 23 and 30. He also had 21 RBIs, second best on the team. Connor Grinstead of Highlands also in the outfield. Grinstead was one of the top outfielders in the area this past season and was big in helping Highland have one of the best seasons on the ball diamond in the last 5 years. He finished with a batting average of .427. His 22 stolen bases were second to only teammate Brenton Bonebreak, with 34 runs and 35 hits were also second best in the league. He led in singles with 27 and was fourth in doubles with 7. Trevor McFarland of Highlands filling one of the utility spots. McFarland was one of the heaviest hitters in the league and was another piece to a standout Highlands senior class. He batted .475 on the year, good enough for second in the SEISC North. He ended first in hits with 38, second in RBIs with 29. His 10 doubles were the best, and his 2 triples were second. He also hit 3 home runs on this season. Behind the plate, McFarland threw out 4 runners. Chase Schultz of Highland is in the other utility spot. Schultz is one of the top pitchers in the Union area this past season. Schultz led the SEISC North with 10 total wins on the season. His 1.78 ERA was 4th best in the conference. He finished the year with 89 total strikeouts, best in the North Division. His .210 opponent batting average was 10th best. Schulte was also great with the bat, finishing with an ERA of .405. His 5 home runs were conference best. He also had 25 RBIs, ranking him 4th. That's the news for the Union area today. I've been your host, Nick Steffens. This is the Southeast Iowa Union Newsbreak, and I will see you next time.